gone.
Yeah, no,
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, honorable members. I think I don't want to waste time.
Which is deliberate.
Honorable Speaker, Madam Speaker, thank you. Welcome back, honorable members and our divisional managers. We are now in a day 2 of our session. So this is what we are going to do today. Maybe before that, let me welcome you all and also acknowledge the Speaker of the National Assembly, our Deputy Chief Whip, and our STP and everybody, our honorable members present, our division managers, and I see there is a secretary of the NCOP, but I don't see him. Is the secretary from where I come from? He was here. Okay. No, also acknowledging him. And welcome back. I did that, Honorable Speaker. I acknowledge the STP. It's the secretary from your house. Oh, okay. No, my apologies. And secretary to the office of the Speaker. Let's go to the item 2, which is our apologies. Let's check if there is any apology that we have received. Cindy?
Good afternoon, members and guests. Yes, we've received a few apologies from member Siwisa and member Feni, also from member Hansinger, and Ms. Clark will need to be excused at 19:45. Ms. Mkalipi has also submitted an apology.
Did you note the one of the speaker? Yeah, she requested to be excused around 8 o'clock. Yes. Deputy Chief Whip?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I have an apology of, the other apology is this one, but it's entering the House. Then another one is that one of the co-chair, Mr. Lekhanyane.
That one is my
delayed.
responsibility,
Yes.
Deputy Chief Whip. I was about to say it, because at the end of the day, it's me who should account for him. It's not you. Yeah. So I just got the message that she will be joining us soon. Can we adopt the apologies as been presented?
Sorry, yeah. Ravi Polia, the acting CIO, was asked to present, but he has bereavement leave, so I'm standing in for him. So if you can just note his apology as well.
Have you noted? Okay, thank you. Those who were not here yesterday, please make sure that when you do the presentation or when you speak, you just introduce yourselves. We have started yesterday, so we can't go again on the introductions, right? So that's how we are going to handle our meeting. We are going to do like this. Yesterday, we received the presentation from STP, and we didn't deal with the question and answer. Today, we are going to receive the presentation from the divisions managers. Then we'll do the question and answer at the end of the presentations. So by saying that, honorable members and managers, is to amend the agenda. So we are going to deal with the part of the discussion and introduction will come at the end. And we are going to start with the presentation. Can we get a move and a seconder for that proposal that I put? Honorable Hadebe?
I move that the proposal be adopted.
Okay.
Honorable Dana seconds the proposal. Chair.
Thanks very much. So can we allow the division manager, Brenda Mashika, of the Strategic Management and Governance Division to start with the presentation? Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, co-chairs, Madam Speaker, Madam Chairperson of the NCOP in absentia, STP, the honorable members, and the colleagues. My name is Brenda Mashika. I'm responsible for strategic management and the governance division in Parliament. I'm pleased to introduce the SMG office presentation. The office itself is a critical component in Parliament's government framework. In terms of the presentation content, we will highlight the purpose of the SMG office. We will look at what informs the work of strategic management and governance in terms of the FMPPLA. We will look at the functions of the SMG division, also the strategic management framework, which informs the full value chain of our work, and then conclude with the brief status of the strategic documents as we prepare for the next financial year. So the purpose of the SMG office is to coordinate strategy, formulation, execution, performance monitoring, and evaluation against the delivery on identified objectives in line with the policy priorities that have been set for Parliament. Strategic management and governance therefore plays an important role in supporting the accounting officer, the executive authority, as well as Parliament at large, in making sure that we achieve the objectives and that we drive value for our stakeholders. Our work as SMG is regulated by the FMPPLA of 2009, especially in the development and management of the strategic documents that are required for Parliament. In the establishment of a new term, FMPPLA is very clear that within 6 months of an election, Parliament is required to present a draft strategic plan. And this strategic plan provides for the objectives of Parliament and how it will ensure government accountability and also address South Africa's economic challenges through a transformative legislative agenda. As SMG then and Team Parliament, we work to develop the strategic plan, and we set the targets, indicators, and ensure that these are aligned with implementation through an annual performance plan. So we develop the strategic plan as well as the APP that is required by the FMPPLA. And then throughout the financial year, we then monitor the progress of implementation by developing quarterly targets and reports which will provide insights into the performance itself, the progress, the reasons for variance, as well as the remedial actions required to drive performance. We are required to submit a mid-year assessment report after the second quarter in order to assess the performance of Parliament during the first half of the financial year. And then finally, within 5 months after the end of each financial year, we do provide a comprehensive report on Parliament's activities, as well as financial and non-financial performance information in the form of an annual report. So therefore, this is what is legislated in the FMPPLA on the work of the SMG. Next, we'll look at the functions of SMG. We are a team of 6 officials with experience as well as expertise in strategic planning, in performance monitoring and evaluation, in policy development, and we are dedicated to providing support, strategic direction and guidance to the institution so that we can ensure that we inform decision making. Our key function is really to entrench a culture of planning in the organization and to facilitate integration and alignment and collaboration across the institution. We actively drive strategic execution of APP targets and make sure that we monitor institutional performance. We also have a function and a role in making sure that institutional policy development and review is in place so that we can ensure a safe and healthy environment of work. As SMG, the one challenge that we do face currently is that to generate these strategic documents, we rely on manual development, analysis, as well as the processing of reports, and this is very cumbersome. And it places a heavy burden on the team's time and resources. But we are looking at improving the work of SMG and the management of data and information. We see this as an opportunity to invest in business intelligence capability, providing the tools that we need to automate our reporting processes. We also want to use this business intelligence capability to enhance decision-making in the organization through digitized analytical capabilities. So we have started with this particular remedial action on this challenge, working through with the ICT division and making sure that we've also elevated this as a strategic plan priority and that we hope it will be fully funded and supported so that it can support the work of Parliament. So in doing our work, and in order to standardize the work that we do have a comprehensive framework that takes into consideration the expectations of our stakeholders, and it provides for the strategic management value chain which we use in the development of strategic plans, but also to support the work of Parliament. The framework itself holistically covers strategy execution and strategy formulation, as well as monitoring and evaluation. On the strategy formulation part, we place emphasis, firstly, on the continuous internal and environmental scanning of the operating environment so that we can prepare the organization accordingly. We rely on integrated planning across the organization so that we can strategically inform the budgeting planning processes. We want to inform the supply chain management demand planning processes, the human capital workforce plans, as well as risk management. And to achieve really our intentions, we do set the measurements and indicators for the performance in a 5-year term as well as the annual term. And we support also the performance management processes of Parliament to ensure that all the strategic objectives are cascaded across the organization. And since strategy execution is a test of our strategic plan design and our formulation, we do support the divisions as well as the institution across with the implementation of our strategic initiatives and making sure that there is continuous monitoring and evaluation of our performance. And so in all of this, we are supported by our colleagues in internal audit, who ensure that we have controls in place to manage our performance information so that it is accurate and it's complete. So this is our holistic strategic management framework that we use for the full value chain of our work in the support of SMG and Parliament. And then this particular slide, the last slide, chairs, we are, as SMG, we have supported the 7th term establishment, and with Team Parliament, we have ensured that the strategic plan development process for the 7th term has been concluded, and we are deeply grateful for the participation and guidance that we received from the Executive Authority, from the honorable members, in informing the 7th term priorities, which have led to the development of our strategic plan, and that which was tabled on the 13th of December 2024. We are now working to revise and refine the strategic plan, and also the development of the annual performance plan for 2025 with the relevant targets and key performance indicators and quarterly targets. The implementation of the APP itself will be informed by the operational plans that we are busy developing, which will provide greater details on the dependencies, the resources that we require to execute our work, the budget, as well as the human capital resources that will enable us to execute the strategy. We hope to submit the final strategic plan and the APP with the revisions before the beginning of the new financial year 2025-26. Honorable chairs and members, with your permission, I would like to conclude on the SMG presentation here. Thank you for the opportunity to present the SMG work, and we certainly rely on your support as well as your collective wisdom in the months ahead and the years to come. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Ms. Mashika. And we're now going to request advocate to do the presentation.
Thank you very much, Co-Chairpersons, Speaker, honorable members. I shall be presenting on the role of the National Council of Provinces. Oh, sorry. I'm informed that I should present on ISSD. Yeah. Yeah, and my apologies, honorable members. I am also wearing a different cap.
Yeah, we were looking for you even before you arrived here.
Of
Yes.
of ISSD. ISSD is responsible for providing office accommodation to members, transport services, catering services, cleaning services, health and safety services, as well as artwork services. I have seen several members have requested work of art to be displayed in their offices. What happens is that members complete a form and they loan artworks from Parliament. At the end of the term, members are required to submit the artwork back to Parliament. But as I've indicated, this area is basically responsible for ensuring that we create a work environment that is comfortable to members, that is also comfortable to staff. We do so, honorable members, in conjunction with the Department of Public Works. As it is known, the Department of Public Works is the owner of the buildings and therefore is responsible for the maintenance of the buildings of Parliament. We provide only those services that Parliament is able to provide. Honorable members will also be aware that insofar as the budget for maintenance of the buildings of Parliament is concerned, that budget does not lie with Parliament. It lies with the Department of Public Works. And that is why, for the purposes of maintenance of the buildings of Parliament or the precincts of Parliament, as well as the villages, we rely on Public Works. So the contract for the maintenance of the buildings of Parliament is essentially the contract between the contractor or the service provider and the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. The pillars that ISSD rests on, as I've indicated, would be the health and safety, responsible for compliance with the Occupational Health and Safety Act, as well as the related regulations, the building inspections, as well as emergency evacuation plans. We should, in the ordinary course of events, honorable members, have drills in case of emergency, so that members should know which doors to use in case of emergency, where to assemble, and so on and so on. So we should be, in the ordinary course of events, be doing that. For instance, if we go into the marquee, members should be knowing how many doors do we have there, how many doors are emergency doors, and where should members assemble in the event that there's an emergency. As I have also indicated, we do deal with artworks, advising on the restoration, on heritage-related matters, preservation and conservation or restoration and exhibition of the artwork selection, loan processing, and installing for members and employees of heritage and artworks assets from Parliament collection. We also deal with household services, the cleaning and hygiene of the offices, as well as the passageways, the walkways, and so on and so on. We also deal with transport and fleet management services. The combis that members have seen are owned by Parliament, and we are responsible in this area for the provision of transport services. We also deal with building maintenance, space management, logistics, and courier services. When Parliament, for instance, or members do have activities outside Parliament, and we have to display, for instance, the artwork of Parliament, we provide courier services, or if there's anything that requires to be couriered to wherever members are, we provide the courier services. And we also do have the facilities management help desk services. I'm sure members have seen around the buildings. We have displayed the number that members should call in the event that they have any maintenance issues. But as I have indicated, essentially, the facility management contract is the contract between the service provider and the Department of Public Works. We also have, as I have indicated, provide catering services to both members as well as staff. We manage all the kitchens insofar as catering is concerned. We also provide catering for committee meetings as well as other events. The food that members have seen here, the water, the tea, and this and so on, is provided by the catering services of Parliament. As I've indicated, we operate the kitchens, the National Assembly, the Old Assembly Kitchen, as well as the 90 Plain Street restaurants. As members would be aware, the new Assembly restaurant was burned down. It was also one of the restaurants that provided services to members. And insofar as the positions or the human resource support is concerned, we have a total of 258 posts, 176 have been filled, and we have 82 active vacant posts. The breakdown, household services, we have 107 employees. Catering services, we have 71. Health, safety, and environment, we have 4. Heritage and artworks, we have 3. Office of the division manager, we have 3. And that, Honorable Chairpersons, I think takes me to the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Advocate. Can we now request Mr. Mgaga to do the presentation on Human Capital Division?
Good afternoon, good evening. I think it's an evening, it's appropriate to say good evening. Good evening, co-chairs, speaker, honorable members, STP and colleagues. I'll speak on the human capital function. My name is Duke Mgaga. The areas that I wish to really to cover, it includes the mandate of human capital division, our vision that we have articulated, the mission statement, as well as the pillars of the work of the human capital. And we'll also touch base on the progress to date between April 2024 and to date. And we'll look at challenges and opportunities. The role of human capital really is an enabling function which partners and supports the broader strategic framework of Parliament. In this, we largely drive the talent acquisition, looking for people in terms of recruitment. We're discharged with the responsibility to drive developmental interventions, not only just for our own staff members, that includes members, and of course, the retention of critical talent and critical roles in the business. How do we do that? It's largely driven by the human capital strategy. In that human capital strategy, it's covered by a number of pillars. There's an overall total rewards, which is a remuneration and benefits, meaning which we are responsible for determination of the pay philosophy of Parliament. We are responsible for the monthly payments. We are responsible for defining the benefits programs of Parliament. The employee wellness also falls within the human capital division. Attached into employee wellness is the broader sports and recreation. Further, we deal with employee relations. In that component of employee relations, we really drive the employee engagement. We also ensure that the relationship with our critical stakeholders, the organized labor, are sound. We have a good rapport with them. It is also informed by the talent and development pillar. Organizational effectiveness really refers to the areas of change and transformation and the cultural programs that we're driving. Next slide. Our vision is guided by the values of Parliament. Our vision is guided by the broader vision of Parliament. So we position Parliament as a strategic partner of choice that is able to attract critical talent and also develop talent that is by drawing in the programs that supports the core skills and core competencies. And we also develop retention interventions for critical talent. We do so by fostering that culture of innovation. We're in a world of innovation, collaboration, which is in line with our values, and of course, we always solicit that excellence and quality towards the growth of Parliament. How do we do that? We've put together a mission statement that really articulates how we cultivate that dynamic and inclusive environment within Parliament. And we do so through the strategic talent development interventions. We want to ensure that resources are managed, and also we are shifting towards a high performance culture, and we're using our 7 values to inform that high performance culture. The next slide, it then unpacks exactly what we do. The recruitment and selection. I know there was a point yesterday that was raised to understand the vacancy rates. Co-chairs, I'm happy to indicate that the overall and quantified vacancy rate between the period of April 2024 and to date is sitting at 6.5%. We've filled number of positions. We defined in April 2024 what are mission critical positions informed by the budget constraints. We defined about 279 of those, and we've been able to fill at least 90% of those. Hence, we're sitting with that 6.7%. The training and development aspect, it's ongoing, is through the bursary schemes, is through the individual developmental plans that informs the broader training needs, that informs what needs to be done to develop talent. But we're also in a process of, with my colleagues from the member support services as well as LSS, really to look at a better integrated talent and development and the training that will provide not just only the staff members, but also the members of Parliament. We measure performance. We have a very sound performance management policy that requires that from onset, the teams and individual employees enter into a performance contract in line with the broader objectives of the institution. We do so in 2 ways. We have those mid-year reviews. We also have the annual reviews that happens throughout. So it's a very robust, I think in that space it also has an opportunity to be improved. The compensation and benefits or total rewards, I think it's safe to indicate that Parliament has employed a total cost to company approach as part of the compensation. But that area also we're busy revisiting. We need to revitalize our comp and ben function, really to define our pay philosophy and also to define our pay strategy. There's work that is being done that should be ready for April 2025. Employee relations, I referred to it earlier, it's more around your employee engagements. We do hold monthly meetings with organized labor where we cover quite a range of topics that relates to conditions of employment and so on. Co-chairs, there's a forthcoming partnership forum with organized labor. Really, its intent is really to redefine and try to enhance and improve the relationship that is already solid. And one of the expected outcomes really is to solidify a clear recognition agreement that covers number of aspects, at least for the next 3 to 4 years. My colleague, Advocate Pindel, has already spoken around the health and safety. There's a very functional relationship in that aspect. Employee wellness, it's working, it's there. I think there's an opportunity to be enhanced. We're looking at the employer wellness strategy so that it's an encompassing strategy that not only talks to health, but it also talks to the sporting codes. So we're looking at that reorganization, we're looking at the strategy. Organizational development, in this instance, it refers to the topic that we received last night, which is around the organizational realignment. That work is in progress. We have 19 divisions that are going through the realignment. I can indicate, co-chairs, that out of 19, 10 have been completed from the design point of view. I'm happy to indicate that previously we've learned that there was realignment or restructuring process that was embarked on, but it was not successful. One of the reasons was the lack of the governance structure. In November 2024, we have now put together that governance structure, the steering committee, that drives the realignment. The STP spoke about the go live of 1st of April. Yes, the work is gearing towards that. Of course, beyond April, and it will then entail the implementation and the outcomes of those design work that will start in the months of May, June. Compliance, it talks to labor laws. We are compliant with all the employment laws, from employment equity, skills development, and we do have policies in place that drives that. Progress to date. Co-chairs, Madam Speaker, and honorable members, this level of confidence that what we've put as a target to complete the organizational review will be achieved. We track, we measure those progress on a monthly basis. We're in a process of finalizing the review of about 10 human capital policies, which includes your bereavement policy, for example, the performance management policies being reviewed. We looking at the overtime policy as an example. So there are about 10 of those policies that are being reviewed. You'll appreciate that Ms. Mashika spoke earlier around the strategy, so as the STP yesterday. Human capital is an enabling function that then has to follow once the strategy is put in place to enable that strategy to be deployed. The human capital strategy, it's work that it's ongoing, it's in progress, and we hope to have one by April 2025. That includes the integrated talent management processes. The integrated talent management processes really, we are looking into bringing in some innovation into it, the AI, to improve and enhance ways of working, how we manage succession plans, how we manage our performance management, how we redo our job profiles. So we need to improve. The culture change program, the change program was launched, and there's a change program and a plan that was approved. Its intent and its purpose really is to support the change that the institution is going through. What drives it? It's mainly your employee engagements, communication, My colleague down the passage here, Lita Geza, she's a change advisor, as she introduced herself yesterday. She's in charge of that program. Of course, the culture, as I've mentioned earlier, we want to make a shift towards our desired culture, which is a high-performance culture that is largely driven by our 7 values. That work is ongoing. We make use of a bottom-up approach into this by means of appointing a number of change agents across the businesses that represents and provide inputs from various quarters of Parliament as we go through this transformational change process. Challenges, I'm tempted to say opportunities at the same time, co-speaker and Madam Speaker, co-chairs and Madam Speaker. We're looking at enhancing the HR processes. We realize that they're outdated. Policies, they need to be revised. The tools, processes from remuneration point of view, talent, and so on. We also want to bring in the digital transformation aspect into it. This will then enhance the skills, the productivity, the efficiencies within Parliament. Part of the integrated talent, it's important that we have a very structured succession plan, particularly for senior management roles. That has to be put in place. Workforce planning is a critical element towards the realignment, but also we often get a question about gainful employment. So it's important that we have a scientific data that can answer into that question. So a workforce planning process, we just developed the terms of reference. We're receiving assistance from DPSA to collaborate with human capital so that in the next 2 to 3 months, we have a scientific data to indicate to us about the right size of the organization that we should have from the workforce point of view. Lastly, we spent the last 6 months or so resolving some historical human capital related issues. We've made a lot of progress in that regard. Thank you, co-chairs. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mgaga. Can I now request Ms. Linda Harper, Member Support Service Division?
Good evening, co-chairs, Madam Speaker, Secretary to Parliament, members and colleagues. Tonight I'll be just going through the Member Support Services Division. Member Support Services exists basically to create a responsive environment to support members. The division is dedicated to empowering members by providing comprehensive support services and facilities. And I'm just going to summarize the services that we are providing currently. Firstly, it is flight services, which all members are currently utilizing. The flight services are provided 24/7 through our electronic procurement platform, and these booking services are available not only to members but to their dependents as well as former members using their travel entitlements. Travel costs are also reimbursed to members upon submission of the required documentation. We are aware that this can be an onerous exercise, and we are currently exploring more effective mechanisms to support and simplify that process. The division also provides tools of trade for members. This includes mobile phones, laptops and tablets, as well as related services and equipment. These tools are provided under the Corporate Agreement of Parliament, and the devices are supported by our ICT colleagues. We provide relocation support for members entering and exiting the institution, and We have had significant numbers of entries and exits within the 7th Parliament, which sometimes can be challenging for us in terms of the administration related to that. Then we have educational bursaries and capacity building to support ongoing development. The MSS team currently supports bursary administration, while LSS, the legislative sector, supports the academic programs offered through the Parliamentary Institute. In the 7th Parliament, we have processed 42 new bursaries, and there are 6 bursaries for members returning from the 6th Parliament. We have recently put out a skills questionnaire to members, and we had a fantastic response to the questionnaire. We had over 90% response from members who have completed the questionnaire. And thank you to members and to the respective whips who helped us in getting that, that number up to 90%. We have significant data from the assessment, and we'll work with all stakeholders to formulate programs based on specific and identified needs of members. We also support members with disabilities, and these services are, we work closely with the individual members to provide appropriate services for their needs. Then there are parking facilities which are available to members at the airport. And lastly, we have our human resource administration. MSS is responsible for the maintenance and management of the HR data, but also supports members in the engagement with the Remuneration Commission. Member support services focuses on creating a supportive environment. The engagement with members is formally through the Member Support Forum, and this is a forum within the parliamentary governance structure. The Member Support Forum is a consultative body that provides a platform for processing matters related to member support and facilities. MSF also appoints a remuneration task team to represent members in engagements with the Remuneration Commission, and this task team is chaired by the House chairpersons of internal arrangements in both houses. Member Support Forum also appoints a bursary committee that considers members' bursary applications and makes recommendations to the Deputy Speaker for approval. Our communication with members is absolutely critical, and the feedback is ultimately what informs our policy decisions and the facilities that are provided to members. So in response to requests from members as well as parties, we have an induction recap scheduled from the 4th to the 6th of March. This will be a 3-day walk-in session in the library and the Queen's Hall. We'll have our team there. We'll have the pension fund administrators, medical aid, as well as SARS available for engagement. The SARS team, we have 7 members from SARS joining us. They've also brought members from their legal department, so they are fully capable of dealing with any tax-related queries and matters that members may have. We will also have our colleagues from PCS who will be available to update the members' profiles as well as official photographs, and our ICT colleagues will be available for support on VPN access for members and the self-service options that have just been introduced. LSS will also provide information on academic offerings provided by the legislative sector at the University of Johannesburg and at WITS. We have sent out an info alert to members, and we'll also follow up as we do with SMS reminders with all the details of that 3-day session. In terms of funding for member support services, our provisional budget allocation for 25-26 is 185 million. This excludes the PARMED contribution for former members of 85 million. This provisional funding is 92% of the budget that we requested, and we are currently working with the Member Support Forum to look for areas for cost containment as well as the effective use of our budget. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Ms. Peters. I think we'll now request the last presenter, Mr. Peters. Information, Communication and Technology.
Thank you, Chair, Secretary to Parliament, members of Parliament, colleagues. It's my privilege, as I said, Mr. Puglia, our acting CIO, has created the presentation, but he's on bereavement leave. I am Jurgens Pieterse. I am the Management Information Systems Manager in Parliament. The first slide is just to show you the essence of what we are doing in ICT. And that essence means that we start off in that loop on the left-hand side, which is we give you access to the information resources in Parliament. That means wherever you are, whatever you're doing, wherever you want to do, we must make sure that you've got access with it, with the technology that you've got at your home. Then we look at processes. Anything that you request from Parliament has a process where people and technology must work together in the end to deliver a service to you. We work at automating and optimizing those processes. The next one, the number 2 on the list on the right bottom side, is data management. We are responsible to make sure that you've got information that you need, when you need it and how you need it, and that it is in a way that you can absorb and work with that information. And then lastly, to make all of that possible, we need to make sure that there is the infrastructure available to transport that information, store that information, protect that information so that you have a secure and easy access to information that you can use. You will see in that infograph that we put the member and the citizens at the center of our focus, and around it, that orange circle that was for the 6th Parliament, but what we do is Parliament's priorities that they put forward as policy priorities, that they agree with you as members. That is the things that drives new initiatives within our ICT. So ICT does not do anything by itself, for itself, or because we like the technology. We are looking at what are those priorities and how can we best allow that priorities to function. You can go to the next slide, please. In terms of our transformational objectives, our objective is a qualitative shift towards outcome and impact-driven business analytics and big data, which I think was heavily driven by our Secretary to Parliament to say, are we making an impact? And ICT at the end of the day also must ask, can we show what impact Parliament has done? To do that, our target for the 23-24 years to design and develop what we call a big data and analytics technical implementation plan. That is how we're going to bring information to the Member of Parliament that is relevant to the Member of Parliament, that empowers the Member of Parliament to make actionable decisions. And then in 24-25, the target is to execute a certain part of that plan, and then in 25-26 is further focused on implementation. In terms of the services that we offer and the way that we are structured, there are basically 5 components. You get the ICT strategy and architecture. That is the function where we look at what is the requirements of Parliament, what's the needs of the Parliament, including the needs of members, and we look at, do we have proper governance to ensure that we've got security and that we comply with our legal opportunities. And then we do information management from that part as well, and we make sure that we understand what is the business process that underlines the work of Parliament, so that when we put in systems, that those systems support Parliament. Then we've got the ICT infrastructure support that provides all the things that enables that transportation of data, the storage of data, so it's the networks, the servers, the storage, and to make sure that those things are in place and functioning. Then we've got our broadcast and video support. That is when you see yourself on television or on YouTube and the cameras is on you during committee meetings. That section makes sure that those cameras are working, that the microphones are working, and that it can be streamed to that YouTube channel or wherever it is required by Parliament. We are not responsible for the content, we are responsible for the infrastructure. Then our enterprise resource and planning support, that makes sure that our finance, our HR, our supply chain management functions are well supported so that we operate as an effective institution. And then on the right-hand side, lastly, is the ICT systems and application support. That's all the other applications that you're using, your Outlook, your Teams, all those where we support those systems so that you have systems that are working and enabling you to do your work. I'm going to, for the sake of time, skip this first clip because I've already covered that in that slide. What we offer to the members of parliament is training, and you have access to one-on-one training, so a member of parliament can contact Sharon Vukuzela. Her contact number is there if you need to contact her. They will help you to introduce you to computers, how to do password self-service so that you don't get stuck somewhere because you've lost your password or forgotten your password. They give you access to e-learning. They help you to work with Microsoft Outlook, social media that you might use, and our new platform of Microsoft 365 that allows all these different tools that you've got to work together seamlessly. And then lastly, when you've got meetings, to use Zoom and Teams. So those are one-on-one that are available to you. We also do one-on-one demonstrations of your technology that you have. So we'll show you, for example, how to dock and undock your laptops, connect to the network, log in with your username, change your password, access email, access internet. It might seem like simple things, but it's those things that really limits you or prevents you from doing your work if you are not aware of how to properly use those type of things. We also make sure that you've got the tools of trade that you require. So members are provided with ICT equipment, voice and data contracts through the Parliament Corporate account. Parliament ICT sets up the equipment, they make sure that they can maintain the equipment, and they make sure that all the other systems work well with the equipment that are chosen. So you've got your laptop, which includes your data, your Wi-Fi modem and your laptop bag to make sure that you protect that laptop and that asset of Parliament, that you've got the cell phone with your unlimited voice package and a tablet with enough top-up data so that wherever you are, you can access our systems. Our means to obtain ICT support services for you is you've got a WhatsApp number that you can type in that you need support. We've got a service desk with a 15 minutes response time. So if you phone them, they will find somebody that can solve your solution and get back to you, and they say within 15 minutes. We do remote support. So if you're sitting in a different country and you've got a problem, we can access your laptop from remotely with your permission. So our technicians can't just go and access your laptop at any time. They have to have your permission to do it, but they can give you support wherever you are if you've got an internet connection. We also have walk-in support with the new wing next to the members restaurant, room V5, also on the 5th floor of 90 Plain Street. So if you suddenly get stuck with any application or with your tablet or your laptop, you can walk in and say you need some help, and there would be somebody that can assist you. Where are we in terms of challenges and mitigations? I might be the harbinger of bad news, or it's not a very beautiful picture I can paint for you. A lot of our infrastructure is outdated and obsolete. We have pushed it for repairs. We utilize rental options. We try to extend the useful life of infrastructure components, but in essence, we are over our time limit with a lot of our infrastructure. It's a little bit like when you go to We Buy Cars and you want to buy a car. This is the car that looks immaculate. It's well looked after. It's shining, but it does 250,000 kilometers on the clock, and it's 10 years old. To give you an idea of where we are and what we're talking about. We've got limited support for public participation events, also due to budget constraints. So it means that we have to reduce our travel cost. Therefore, we need to outsource some of our services. We need to rent infrastructure. and use local service providers. We are limited by the number of technical support staff we can put out at a venue. We are limited in terms of the scope of services that we can offer there. So we can't give you the full experience that is probable you deserve as members of parliament because of that lack of, that we have to look at our budget and streamline that. Then we need to reduce or defer our licensing. That means that we restrict licenses so that more people use the same license, which sometimes mean when you use concurrent licenses that some people can't log in at a specific time. To mitigate it, we switch to open source technology. That means it's technology that we've got control over and we don't pay licenses for. We also use internal resources almost throughout so that we don't spend money on external consultants or resources and people. A big risk is around cybersecurity. We are being attacked almost on a daily basis by people that try to get into Parliament's systems. We haven't had for a long time any major breach of our systems, but it is currently, when we do not upgrade our things in time, if we do not patch our systems, each thing that we defer opens up a window where the risk increase of cybersecurity risks. We are more reliant on internal technical skills to ensure that our systems are secure. We need to implement some manual processes to monitor and track what is happening, where you would prefer to have automated systems. Lastly, that's my last slide. When we implement things, our projects have longer development life cycles and implementation cycles. We need to communicate expectations consistently to mitigate that, because we can't deliver as quickly as we would have there been the right resources and budget to work much faster than what we would have liked to do. Developers of Parliament work long hours. They sometimes get burnt out, but they are committed to deliver to Parliament. And then some projects are simply being deferred and do not see the day of light, even when members and the staff of Parliament says, yes, it is a priority. And then lastly, we have a limited capacity to implement our digital strategy. So again, we need to defer some projects. We need to rely on internal resources, even though we deal with technology that's brand new. We can't bring in resources from outside to assist us in those processes to deliver our digital strategy more quickly. And then again, we use open source to help us with that, and we try our best to extend the life cycle of our software and hardware. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for the briefing of all our division managers. And I think we agreed that we are going to do the question and answer session for both the presentation of STP and the division managers co-chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Ntofin. Greetings to the Speaker and all honorable members present in this meeting. I must also extend fraternal greetings to those coming from administration led by the Secretary of Parliament, and indicate that this meeting is a continuation of the meeting that started yesterday. There are honorable members who have joined this meeting today. We want to thank you so much for your presence. The presentations have been made in that order. I will want to check if there are honorable members who want to engage with the presentations. I'm allowing you time to to decide if you want to raise your hand or not. Because once once the list is closed, it's closed. Okay, Honorable Mautwe, you don't have intention to speak. Okay.
My proposal was that we just go. Or this way, whichever way, but
Okay.
yeah.
Right to left or left to right? Okay. We will start here. It's where we started yesterday. It is not by accident, Honorable Hansinger.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take any form of favoritism, no problem. Good evening, Chair, co-chairs and colleagues and administration. Thank you very much for the opportunity to engage. There's a lot of information that's been given to us in a very short space of time. So I'll try my best to get through questions that I do have. Strategic management. I would want to ask, what is the difference between the administration's strategy used to hold the accounting officer accountable versus the strategy for Parliament as the two houses as is defined in the FMPPLA? Basically, and I've had this conversation with Mr. Pentela before, it looks like the administration prepares a strategy for Parliament as a political house. So I mean, that's where my question comes from. With regards to the ISSD, so it's my understanding, and maybe I'm wrong, that Parliament leases land for Parliament's buildings. So the holder of the land must be then public, and the buildings must be public works. So if you're going to build on that land, surely you have to get permission from the landowner. So I just want to ask, I mean, has anybody asked permission to build on Parliament's land by way of a government gazette from the minister? It's just a question. And then also, I've noticed in the pillars of the ISSD, and you'll excuse me, I just want to quickly get to those pillars. The one pillar, the last pillar is manage infrastructure and space development projects. So why is ISSD not then managing the rebuilding of Parliament? Because it doesn't seem that in their presentation it didn't come up that they are actually actively involved in the managing of the rebuilding of Parliament. And then with regards to human capital, I don't think we've seen an organigram yesterday. Did we see one? No, it might be useful for us to see an organigram. And then if we see the organigram, I mean, the logical question would be who approves that organigram? And are there then any positions in that organigram that hasn't been approved? So I mean, that's where you start when you look at an organisation as big as Parliament. You would start with an organigram because that's what most municipalities, functional municipalities, do. And it's always a big argument around the organigram. ICT, do you have enough funding? I mean, there's a lot of stuff ICT needs to do still, and we're in the ICT age. So I mean, I'm stressed that the ICT doesn't have enough funding, and maybe we're funding other things that we shouldn't be funding, and sacrificing on the ICT thing, which could help Parliament a lot to get out and do public participation much better. HR, how many suspensions, how many acting positions might be useful for us to know. Maybe expand on any of the, you refer to human capital issues that's being resolved, maybe expand on that so we can get details on that. I noticed yesterday in the presentation by the STP that there's a very low turnover rate in Parliament, so 2% turnover rate, which means employees stay here for a long time. So if there's 1,250 odd employees, how many are actually functionally employed? So actively busy every single day with what they are employed for. Do they, the question begs, are we recruiting more people for Parliament instead of reskilling and optimizing integral capacity building of the people that we have at the moment as employees in Parliament? And maybe if we as a committee can get a report on that. That'll be very useful. I'm not going to take more time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm not going to repeat the questions my colleague has already covered. Just in terms of the JCSF, the SMG, the work that the SMG do, the institutional policy development, can we just have some time frames on that policy? And then it talks about the APPs and the operational plans, but it would be very good to have a report here to align the budgets that we get to APPs and operational plans, because we so often don't meet targets and not sure what the budget for that line item is. So it's very important to analyse a report that has the numbers next to what is expected in terms of work. Then in terms of the ISSD, I'm interested to see a report in terms of the catering, in terms of line items. For example, what we pay for soft drinks, what we pay for water, etc. It would be very interesting to see what that budget would accumulate to, if there's a report like that we can analyse. And then in terms of human capital division, my colleague spoke about that, and it would be good to see the organogram and the budgets that align to that organogram. And then in terms of member support, I would like just to raise, I know Ms. Harper says that it's quite erroneous, in terms of getting claims paid, etc. But we do find that there are many times that claims are sent back and they say they can't read the supporting document when it's clear as mud, that you can see it. So it's just those small things I think that we need to look at, because we have members in our caucus that complain a lot about that, where they haven't been reimbursed for 3-4 weeks. And we do welcome the walk-in provided for us from the 4th to the 6th. I think that would make a big difference if the staff and all the support is there for us to actually speak to each one of those people if we have any problems. Then in terms of ICT, I'm not sure if you are able to provide this information to me, or whether we would get this from members, from the members' support meeting that we're going to have on Friday. But I'm just interested to know how far the negotiations are in terms of the broadband and Wi-Fi agreements at the parks, because we were told that that was going to happen, because many of us really battle with signal in the park in terms of doing our work, and it's important that we wrap up that issue and make sure that members are able to access their computers and get proper signals in the parks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, co-chairs. Let me start by welcoming the brief presentations that were provided to us. Maybe a general submission before referring my question to specific divisions. I find it difficult from an oversight point of view as a member of this activist parliament. And we're expected to be agents of transformation. So, the little information that is being shared with us, as much as I appreciate that, but I was trying to establish a detailed information about each division. And I will tell you what I'm missing out of these presentations. I'm missing the point cited by the previous speakers, the organizational structure, employment equity issues, because we are here to transform. But also, I'm missing the AG's management letters for these divisions. I know so far the AG's findings about Parliament as institutions has been very favorable, but it's important for us as MPs to understand the details of each division in the AG's opinion. So it's important for us, chairs, that we obtain the management letters that has been generated by the AG about these divisions, because that will empower us to do our oversight work properly. But also I'm missing the details. I mean, looking at the presentation, it's clear that there is a lot of procurement services that are happening in this institution. So as an agent of change, I want to know to what extent is that leveraged to ensure that the previously disadvantaged are properly empowered. So I hope the detailed documents that each division is having, I'm very sure is lying somewhere, because a lot of information has been provided here verbally, and it can alarm I can't keep remembering most of the information that has been shared with us here. So detailed information can be electronical. I think it will help us to go to those details. Well, coming to ISSD, a reference was made to fleet services, which is somehow insourced or in-house. Does that mean we are not procuring any transport services from outside service providers? Of course, if we are doing that, it will be important for us to get those details. But also, quite interestingly, when you refer to your human capital, you didn't mention the staff for our transport services. And I will tell you, Chair, it's in this committee where I had a very bad experience. After one of these late night meetings, I was transported by someone who doesn't even know where I was going. And this guy was a foreigner. So I then said to myself, am I really in safe hands here? But I didn't make a meal out of it, because I thought maybe an opportune time will arrive. But let's get to know, because in your staff complement, you didn't cite the staff complement of transport. I'm not sure if we have the fleet, but we source privately for the drivers, which will be a very interesting arrangement. On the human capital development, I'm not sure what is the role of human capital development in villages, parliamentary villages, because one of its key responsibilities is members' wellness. Now, if you look at sports facilities in those villages, they leave a lot to be desired. And some of us, truly speaking, we are serious with this program of fighting old age. We want to exercise, we want to play tennis, we want to swim, and we are in a very stressful environment here. The environment of point of orders is very stressful. So the result of the matter is that the swimming pools are not up to scratch. They are not well taken care of. The tennis courts, I don't even want to refer to the Pelican ones. The nets are off. The tennis courts are just dilapidated. I'm not sure how regular do you make a turn to our villages. Because if you are concerned about wellness, it can't only be wellness here. It should also be wellness where we stay. So I'm humbly requesting that should it be routine, so as if it's public works responsibility, you are able to engage with them on our behalf constructively, because we are encountering these problems. I mean, since I arrived at Pelican, I've lodged this particular complaint with the caretaker there, and nothing is coming out of that process. So it will be good as an institution from the wellness point of view to take keen interest on our living conditions in those villages, But also, there are many facilities. I know at some stage, many years ago, there was an undertaking that we will have gyms, mini gyms. We are not asking for your Virgin Active type of gym, but mini gyms in those villages. So it's about Tlasalama foot, But the unfortunate part is that those facilities were secured and the equipment is not there. Now, my plea is that let's find a way of getting this. And I've shared it with some of you as officials, but I think it's important that as this meeting, this should also be entertained. And lastly, on the same spirit, you know, we have a plethora of service providers in this institution. Permit, I think, is an issue now because it's taking a lot of our money as Parliament. But I'm interested to know what are they plowing back as part of their social responsibility plan to us as members, and obviously to some of these facilities, because it doesn't make sense to me. Why can't these people sponsor? If really their concern is about our health, why can't they sponsor? As an example, why can't they sponsor some of these gyms in villages? It's not going to take them more than 200 just to feed. 200,000 just to feed those buildings in our villages with proper gym facilities, you know. I think that will be a better example of their social responsibility, because they must definitely put their money where they must put the investment where they get their money. We can't talk of their social responsibility plans if they can't do anything for us as their client. So I'm just making an example that maybe HCD, please look into getting partnership with this service provider. Some of them might be interested in supporting those facilities in our parliamentary villages. I'm not sure the interpretation, where does it lie in these divisions? We have a serious problem of interpretation facilities. I don't know if it's facilities or it's human capital, people that we are not employing enough interpreters to cover all South African languages. But there is a serious problem there. I don't know where is it, which division is responsible for interpretation services. On ICT, as a parting shot, is there any official arrangement with any intelligence service provider that we must know of as members of parliament? Because ICT is the currency of intelligence work. It can be local, it can be international. Are we having any official relationship with intelligence services in South Africa or outside South Africa that we must know of as people charged with a committee charged with the responsibility of overseeing your work? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to yourself, Honourable Speaker, Parliament officials, colleagues. Chair, the presentations, and I'm talking of all of them, let's agree that they are all high level. So they are more like introducing what the departments do, the methodologies, the frameworks and whatnot. There's no meat as yet. Maybe the meat will come on Friday, STP, because the devil is in the detail. So we ought, if you speak about strategy, we need to know what is the strategy, what is it? We know the methodology of how you do it and whatnot, the framework, but what exactly are we talking about? And that's not what we have received today. So I'm just going to engage on a high level as well. So on the ISSD, it's very interesting that Parliament owns the combis. So why are we not owning the buses? If we can own combis, what stops Parliament from owning buses? And whose buses are these that we are renting? And at what cost to Parliament? Because I think that you've got a very nice case study with your taxis, your combis, which can then say, let's also just insource the buses as well. I'm sure you have a maintenance strategy in place for the combis. Can also apply to that the taxis. We are saying this because once you insource, it's everywhere that you are bound to save costs and not use somebody else to render the service that you ordinarily could be having. Because if you look at transport of members, we're stuck in those villages. So there will never be a time where you don't need transport for members. So it's something that you can't do without. And if it's something that you can't do without, Why are you still outsourcing it when you should be insourcing it? Chair, you know what is difficult is that some of the functions, actually most of them, are conducted by Public Works. And Public Works does not sit in this meeting. So maybe we need to agree that there must be permanent invitees to this meeting, because it will help us a lot. The ISSD presentation indicated a lot of tasks which are performed by Public Works. And then there is a staff that he has in his office. So maybe there's even duplication of functions there. Or a police is policing a police, you know. You have somebody who is dealing with SHE compliance, but that is a function of Public Works, which Public Works has outsourced to a service provider. So you have this person in-house, then you have Public Works, then you have a service provider. Are we not having a duplication of functions here? And how do we then make sure that a police is not a policing a police? You know, have just one person who can be appointed for that. So I think let's agree that Public Works must form part of this meeting, more so that even the budget lies with them. And we don't get to know where they account with this budget that they have that is servicing Parliament. Chair, there's a bit of confusion for me on slide number 8. I don't know what is the slide number, but it's this one, ISST, that talks about employees. I see here it says field post 176, but then at the bottom you speak about 188. So I think it confuses me a bit. You've got in total 258, of which 176 is filled. But when you go down, when the breakdown of the gender there, the number is 188. So there's something that is not tallying up there. HR, where do you advertise your positions, your vacancies? And obviously I don't want to apply for a vacancy in Parliament. But I'm just asking because, you know, we want to know how people get here. Maybe you are just going to get NUMSA comrades to come here, but let's get to know where are you advertising, so that we can also share that information with our people at home to apply. Otherwise, we're going to accuse you of not transforming the Parliament whereas the information does not get to our people in rural villages and all that. And then you listed challenges on your slide, on human capital division slide, but there's no meat once again to eat. So we don't know what are these challenges. We know that there's a challenge with resolving the legacy topics, but what are those? And what are we doing to address those? Otherwise, we'll permanently have these challenges that don't go away. So maybe we'll get that information at the later stage. When you go to IT, you're saying you are not responsible for content, but you are responsible for broadcasting services. Can you explain to us what you mean by that? And there's also this parliamentary monitoring group, PMG. Who owns this platform? And what is the relationship with Parliament? It's a very good platform, by the way, because it details you the meetings, questions, and everything. When you go there, you get all the information that you need, even about members and everything. It's a very interesting platform, but who owns it? Is Parliament owning it, or it's a private service provider owning it? And then on the broadcasting services, I remember, I don't know if it's Tate Klaso, he used to brag a lot about having capability in-house to broadcast, because we were debating the issue of having a parliamentary channel on a multi-serve and multi-choice, sorry, thank you, and not SABC channels, because we are saying SABC is a state-owned. So why are we not supporting SABC? And to be told that multi-choice is giving the platform for free is not true, because our people want to watch Parliament. And if it takes for them to subscribe to DSTV, for them to access this channel, it's not for free. Actually, it's advertising, it's Parliament advertising its work on behalf of multi-choice. So let's have that channel into SABC, and we're told that no, Parliament is having, building its own channel in-house. How far are we with that? And Chair, my last question is an overall question, is to say, the Speaker yesterday presented the vision, the mission of Parliament, the impact, what we're looking to achieve and whatnot. So the strategy of all these departments should be to support the vision and the mission that was presented by the Speaker. So whatever we do, I get very worried when IT says their mission and vision, and then there's a point that they say 2030 impact is to alleviate poverty, unemployment, and inequality. It's well and good, but how does that tally up with the overarching strategy of Parliament, which is what the Speaker has presented? Because we can't be working in silos. We need to have departments that support the overall vision and the mission of Parliament. So we need that synergy across all the departments. And Madam's strategy, when she presents, her strategy should be talking about what the vision and the mission of Parliament is and how we're going to achieve that mission and vision. Thank you very much, Chair.
Chair, co-chairs, thank you very much. Chair, I think that, obviously as members of this joint standing committee on the financial management of Parliament, it's quite a difficult acronym, but I suppose that in the presentations we've received up to now, and I think that's what some of the members are raising, that it's the presentations are quite general. But I suppose that as we get into the year and as an oversight committee begin to look at the detail of the budget, each particular component of the budget, we will be getting more information. And I know that from the program there are still other divisions that have to report tomorrow, which includes communications, knowledge and information management, NA and NCOP, etc. And I mean, that just brings me to the one point which maybe we can pick up tomorrow, which the previous speaker, honourable member, raised about parliamentary TV. I mean, and maybe when those colleagues come and report to us tomorrow, I mean, OpenView seems to be a platform which is open, and it has a number of different channels there, including SABC, and it's free to air. It also includes, so I wonder if we could just have a sense of that, because I think there is that issue very clearly contained in the 3 priorities that the Speaker outlined: strengthening oversight, enhancing the legislative process and public involvement. And that issue of broadcasting and all other components of public involvement, I think we need to begin to see what are the amounts of money attached to all of these particular priorities that are there, as the Speaker outlined, to achieve certain outcomes. But we were given this, the legislation that guides us at the induction. And one thing that is of immediate concern, and maybe we could have a response to this, is that if you look at Chapter 3, and that I think links to the strategy presentation, it says that within 6 months after an election of the NA or by another date determined by Parliament, the accounting officer must prepare and present to the executive authority a draft strategic plan for Parliament's administration. So that's the issue of another date determined by Parliament. I'm not sure whether Parliament has actually passed a resolution which would deal with this challenge of 6 months, because I would, if another date is to be determined by Parliament, then that's probably has to be by way of a resolution. I know on Friday we are getting a presentation on the strategy, but I just think we need to make sure that we are aligned to this legislation that governs us. And then, you know, in terms of the annual performance plan, the annual budget, and the submission of all of these issues as in Chapter 3, and the process of consultation that the Executive Authority has with the Minister of Finance, I think it seems to me that with where we are with the current budget, we know that the budget will only be presented, touch wood, inshallah, God willing, on the 12th of March. We as a committee are not going to have much say in, I mean, this is a budget that we're just going to have to deal with, Parliament's budget. So what I want to raise, co-chairs, is that if you look at the work of this committee and all these presentations we've had here, you know, colleagues have asked for a full HR, who's acting, who's not acting, what are the vacancies, you know, to almost go through a process where we can actually begin to construct a budget that will actually help Parliament achieve these three outcomes. I mean, when you hear what ICT is saying, when you look at member support, the vacancies, etc., it just seems that we've almost got to, as a committee, be part of helping Parliament to develop a budget that is actually going to be able to meet those objectives. Because I think at this stage, we're going to be given the first budget without any input. And I was hoping that one of the things we could consider agreeing in terms of our program for the year is to get actively involved in the budget for 2026, 2027, so that we can actually deal with many of these challenges which these presentations we received this evening have already pointed to. Because to achieve those objectives, if we don't have the support services properly financed, we're going to hit problems. I know that one of the colleagues also raised the fact that when you submit claims, there's not necessarily a turnaround time. But I also discovered in speaking to some of the staff that that we need clearly to give more support to that division, because some people are still acting, and it seems that some of the staff have to work into the early hours of the morning just trying to deal with claims. So the whole issue of the organogram, and to get our managers to speak openly about, you know, what are the things that make it difficult for them to actually meet these objectives. So what I'm basically, I think a key thing that I'm trying to propose here is that if we look at our role as an oversight committee, I think unless we really get into the budget, it should not be the case that Treasury tells Parliament, who's supposed to have oversight, what you can have. Surely we as Parliament need to say, these are our objectives, this is what we need to achieve those objectives, and then we should never forget that Parliament itself, according to the Constitution and the law, has the right to amend a money bill. And I'm not suggesting a confrontational approach, but we cannot simply get whatever Treasury gives to us. So I'm saying I think this committee, in line with becoming an activist Parliament, we need to be that committee that is going to fight for a budget that will allow us to achieve the budget. And we shouldn't hold back in terms of seeing that as a key thing. And then just one thing on human capital, there's a reference there to legacy topics, I think it says, which have been unresolved. I don't know what that means. Like if there's legacy topics that have been unresolved, it'd be useful just to get a sense of that. And the very last point, all these issues about public works, the villages that the colleagues have raised, ultimately, and it goes to PARMED as well, there are laws which govern, laws that this Parliament passed about PARMED. There's a law that the Parliament passed long ago about the villages. So if we're going to change that and have Parliament responsible for the villages and the transport issue and so on, we need to look at what are the actual laws that we need to pass to sort those things out. Because unless we change those laws, that function, for instance, of the parliamentary villages is going to stay where it is. Thank you.
Good evening, co-chairs, Speaker, the Secretary of Parliament, your team, our colleagues here. Thank you very much for the presentations. And I wish to concur with Honourable Doug Moore, especially when he spoke about the budget, because I think I mentioned that last night with regards to the budget for Parliament. I'd like to make a few comments with regards to the strategic management and governance, and that is the division that was presented with the paper-based challenges that they were having. And my question is, can AI not assist? And I'm going to add that question to the question on ICT. When I looked at the key considerations from the 6th Parliament for 7th Parliament, and I think when we look at the strategic plan that will be presented on Friday, we need to upgrade in a smart way, not the old traditional way, because AI can assist in many areas, and it would probably cut our costs by half on the ICT if you're going to look at another system that would increase, that would bring in AI. And I think that is something that we need to look at. Maybe not look at the traditional upgrade, but look at how AI, a new AI system, is going to enhance Parliament in many areas. AI can even collate all your information. I mean, it writes speeches. It is incredible. And I don't even think everybody knows how useful AI is going to be, but at the same time, we need a policy on AI and how we're going to manage that. The next presentation, institutional support services. Okay, I also had a few comments, but I'm not going to comment on the villages because we now have committees. We were all there lobbying, and we have our mayors of our villages, and we are definitely going to get involved, because I also had the item on buses versus combis and the costs. You know, it's actually useful to have combis pick up your portfolio committee, especially if you're meeting earlier or staying later, than having to stay in town all day until the last bus leaves for the villages. Coming into, and I'm sorry this is a soft item, but it's actually a very important item, and that's the catering. Special needs. We are now, what is it, 6, 7, 8 months. 8 months. Gluten-free, dairy-free. You can go anywhere in the world. There's a table in any of the government restaurants, and it says there, gluten-free. You can have gluten-free bread. You can have a non-dairy milk, soya milk. You can have yogurt. For this whole time, we have tried, from committee secretaries, myself, just to get a coconut yogurt. It's just not possible. And I really do think that there are a lot of people that are gluten intolerant, and there's a lot of people that are lactose intolerant. And it's not a very hard thing to do, just 1 or 2 at a table. You go in the restaurant, there's a little table that has the items on. The next question that I have, and that is just for clarity, and that is on the artwork. The courier services for art, where? I would like clarity. Would it be some function? Would it be a parliamentary outreach? Or, you know, because I'm looking at our constituency offices, but then we would have to have security there. Because members can request artwork and give it back at the end of the term for their offices. And then there are courier services. So I was very interested to know where. Coming through to human capital, the division there, the overtime policy. What is the overtime amount that we are currently sitting on? I think I came from a labour forum where I was the chair of a labour forum in a metro. Who are the stakeholders of the labour forum? Do you have a labour forum here? I see that was one of the areas in the legacy report that one needed to look at. Who are the stakeholders? Who chairs the Labour Forum? Is there one established? And although everybody looks at the overtime budget and they would look at that for savings, it's not necessarily feasible because you will always have overtime with regards if you look at the services that Parliament renders. Coming through to the, member support. One of the areas, and I'm not going to ask the same questions that came before me, except just one. In our members' dependents, you allowed a parent who's probably staying with you or travels with you. They only have 2 tickets per year, which means it is quite, it's not able to support. So if you're going home on 2 recesses or whatever, your parent will go with you. You still end up paying for the airfares. Can one not do a transfer of your own airfare savings to your parent, your biological parent? And I think that is something we need to look at, because if your mother is staying with you or your father, you have to, and some of them, the grandparents are looking after young kids that are here. That is something that I would like us to have a look at. Otherwise, those are all the questions that I had. Thank you.
Thank you, chairpersons, and thank you for the presentations. And good evening to all of the colleagues and the administration as well. Chairpersons, I'll be brief. Some of my questions have been covered. I have 5 on my list, but let's see how it goes. First of all, I would like to give credit where it's due. I think the staff of Parliament are excellent. They're very helpful, well-trained, always friendly, and I think we should make mention of that, especially to the administration that is here. You should know that your staff is very well-trained, and I am very impressed with them, for one. And on human capital, there was made mention of historical human capital related issues that have been solved. I'd just like some more details on that. What are these historical human capital issues that have been solved, please? And then also someone mentioned an organogram. I think that would be good if we could have an organogram just to see where everyone fits in and how they fit in everywhere. On ICT, chairs, what is the budget need on the outdated ICT infrastructure? What in a perfect world, what would the ICT department need if they had to replace all of that outdated infrastructure? And how long can we still go with that outdated infrastructure? Because I think we'll be in quite a crisis if everything just crashes all at the same time. So I'd like to know that, please. And then also on the catering, much has been mentioned on catering. I'd like to know, are there any limits to committee catering, especially? Because I don't want to split on any committees, but I've been to committees where there is quite an offer of catering, which I think isn't really needed. I think we can really save some money on committee catering. And lastly, Chair, Honourable Maotwe mentioned, and I think Honourable Dagmo as well mentioned, options for broadcasting, open views, etc. And I don't know how many of you have seen it or have it on your phones or downloaded it. The SABC Plus app is quite nice. And I'd like to know if that has been investigated as a way of bringing Parliament to the people. Because it's free as far as I know, it's very accessible, it's a nice app, so those are all of my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Co-Chairpersons, and then evening everyone in the room. I think that a person will first start by appreciating all the reports which you have presented this evening. I think they are succinct in dealing with the issues which are affecting us. But I'll go to the issue of the provisions of facilities for members. I'll start with the issue of the offices. When you go to the issue of the offices, is there any routine plan of the maintenance of the offices? Because you reported that there's artwork which can be loaned to the various offices of the members. But sometimes when you go to the other offices, you can see that the offices are almost dilapidated. There was the water which is coming in, the issue of maintenance. How regularly is the maintenance done? So that those offices are livable spaces for, or are conducive for productive work for the members of parliament. When coming to the issue of transport itself, it's very good that we have our own fleet. But let's say, as a member of parliament, can I go to those offices and request the manual, which car is due for service at what time? Because sometimes you can look at the car, think that it is good, but sometimes if it is not serviced properly, it can be a danger to the people it's supposed to service. Is there any logbooks which are kept in place in those offices to ensure that those cars are maintained properly? Why I'm raising that? Because you find that some of the cars are so dirty. Sometimes they're so dirty, and don't ask yourself if the members of parliament are going to be ferried using such cars which are so dirty. I wonder whether the maintenance is done, because the issue of maintenance is hidden. It's not on or you cannot see it with the naked eye. And then on the issue of the cleaning services themselves, let's go straight. How many times are the toilets looked upon per day? When you go to the other, let's say to a mall, you go to the garages which are outside the filling station, it's very clear that each and every hour, to get upon, someone has come in and look at whether the things are still in order. Sometimes when you go in the afternoon, it leaves a lot to be desired. So is there some sort of a mechanism to monitor such a thing? Because what is critical about this national key point is that we receive international guests. So if we have got international guests, when they have to go to a bathroom which is dirty, it is leave a lot to be desired. So I think that if we can get that, can we go and get a routine or a manual that how many times per day are they monitored, and then the necessary papers, are they replaced on time? Because sometimes you go in there, you find that the papers are not there to wipe your hands. You wonder if someone is learned. And then, but what is very important too is the issue of the member support division. That division is a marvel to work with. It's a marvel. When you require something, it is there on time and precisely as it's supposed to be. How I wish that all the other divisions could do that. But as we are a new administration, we are starting afresh, I think that the administration could put mechanisms in place so that we ensure that we take the MPs as the clients of parliament, and they must be treated like that. As Honorable Uland, is Deputy Chief Whip MK, when he spoke about the Ilendo, Ishama Parks, we know that the Ishama Parks is the competence of the Public Works Department. Is there any service level agreement between Parliament and Public Works so that the services which they provide at those parks, are they in par with the status of the MPs? Because if you can go there, it's true, go and look at the tennis court. There's nothing. And then there's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. There was a tennis court, but they are no longer there. The issue, if there was a service level agreement between Parliament and Public Works, how were the things allowed to deteriorate to that level? So I think those are the things. That's a simple question. Is there a service level agreement between Public Works and Parliament? In particular, even the maintenance or I don't know who's maintaining Parliament. Is it elite? Is it hired by Parliament, or is it hired by Public Works? If it's hired by Public Works, what service level agreement is there between Public Works and Parliament so that we get the better services? By and large, I said that the division issue, I highly recommend. I'm telling you, when you deal with this issue of bursaries, you get all the information on time as it is, and even the recommendations. So I think how I wish that everyone could work like that. But we're going to work like that. We're going to make this parliament work. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, co-chairpersons. Good evening, Honorable Speaker and colleagues in this meeting. Honorable chairpersons, I want us to respond to this question. What is Parliament? Is it one of the three organs of state or not? If so, why is Parliament being treated like a stepchild of the organs of state? If Parliament is not treated like that, a stepchild, I think most of the problems that Parliament is experiencing, we wouldn't have them, these problems. The other two state organs, including municipalities, let's say a member of Parliament or a member passed on, whether it's a minister or a judge or a councillor, you can see that this person was a public servant. You can see the coffin will be draped with the South African flag. So even our soldiers, we saw that. But with members of Parliament, it's a disgrace. It's like you have never rendered service to the country. So I think we need to start there. When we revisit and review our policies, we must go there so that Parliament, wherever it is, in that hole where it is, we must lift it up to be on the same par with the other two state organs. I'll pass that one. Then I'll join my colleagues in appreciating the work that this division is doing for Parliament, including the presentations that were received, not the ones that were presented here today. Cindy sent us documents on a link and also said that we must download those documents. Those are detailed presentations. I've seen them. So today they are just giving us, presenting the brief, they are giving us brief presentation of the thick documents that they sent to us. I will request that, Cindy, you resend that link because there was a time frame for its expiry. Then, because that is where sometimes we are lacking as members of Parliament. I don't know, maybe it's because of the workload. We don't really read. We don't really, we don't go through the details of the emails that are sent to us. Then on the issue of maintenance, I want to agree with Member Mautwe to say that sometimes we really need to have DPW in our meetings, Madam Chairperson. We really need Public Works to be part of our meetings. Those who were in Parliament in the 5th, 6th terms of Parliament know exactly that we will go for a recess, our constituency period in November or in December. Some of the lifts will not be working. You'll come back in January. It will be the same. February, March, 6 months will go by without the lift being serviced. Then you ask yourself, what will happen if maybe there is fire or there is something? Yes, I know that there are exit points in case of fire, but what will happen if someone got stuck in there? And when you're stuck in a lift, sometimes your phone doesn't work. Sometimes you'll want to run to an office next door and leave your phone in your office. Then you get into a lift, then you get stuck. So I really don't know, because in South Africa we used to benchmark a lot, do study tours. I was once in China where the escalators were not working, but within 5 minutes they were up and running. So I really don't know whether we, as departments, and do they really go there to learn something or not? Do we really send the relevant people to go out there to learn the best practices? We need Public Works to be part of us in this meeting. Then on the presentation by ICT, I fully agree the budget cuts are problematic, Madam Speaker. I saw that in the 6th Parliament when we were on public hearings, doing public hearings in the provinces when we were dealing with GLAP, the General Intelligence Laws Amendment Bill. In one province, public participation was never done. We were there. You could hear from the people who were making inputs. They were talking about service delivery issues. Nothing related to what we went there to do. It was after that visit to that particular province when we took it upon ourselves to go on radio to try and explain. Then the next province, people were there because they heard what we were talking about. They made those meaningful submissions and inputs. So what I'm trying to say is that there is a need for strengthening these services so that as Parliament, we can be able to do what is expected of us, and our communities out there will be well informed. Other than these, honorable chairpersons, I'm covered. Thanks.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to the Speaker, greetings to the Secretary of Parliament and yourselves and colleagues. And I'm listening, Chairperson, to the honorable members and listening to the presentations. And what occurs to me very clearly is the issue of reduction of budgets of Parliament and the determination of budgets of Parliament elsewhere instead of Parliament determining its own budget. I just wanted to check what is the state of that determination of budget through perhaps the appropriation bill. And then in terms of across board, you are hearing these reductions, and you know, I don't know where we decided to take the route of austerity measures versus expansionary budgets. I don't know what informed it, but it cuts across all departments, all sectors. And if you calculate that, you'll go to a 5 billion, right, of the budget cuts. And I don't know how is public value going to ever get to a point where it's qualitative, you know, in terms of what it is. The ISSD speaks about the graduates, you know, and I met a group when I came here yesterday that was talking to the issues of payment and all those things, Chairperson, and I wondered whether it is the one that was not paid in January 2025, because therein I'm worried about staff morale, one, and then I'm worried about the retention of staff and institutional memory, because if people are not paid It doesn't speak to the issues of morale, of being motivated to come to work and so forth. What instruments are available to curtail that situation of staff motivation? I do agree with the speaker that spoke about the diligence of the staff across, especially at ITC and elsewhere in the kitchen and so forth. They are very charitable, for lack of a better word. They are very friendly. So I do agree with that. And also I agree with the sentiments shared by Commissar TG Maudwe, who actually spoke to the issues of insourcing. Very, very important to note that members of parliament on their way to Laboria, the bus just stopped before the robots. It just stops. If there was no contingency, a bus following, you know, I think they were communicating. If there was no contingency, I think we would have been exposed to the wolves there. And there was no, just last week, when we came from the budget speech, we were, I mean, you know, the cap flats and all those things, we would have been exposed to the wolves. But thanks to the contingency plan that they've made, because the bus was having problems. I think it was discs, finished disc and so forth. So I think we should look at the safety issues there. The ITC speaks about cyber security issues, and I'm wondering what preventive instruments do they have at their disposal to mitigate against such that they have raised in terms of the status quo of the cyber cuts that they are speaking to, that every day they run a risk to that thingy, to those problems. And then, okay, let me go to. Yeah, no, that's more about it, because I looked also at the legacy reports, because I'm quite new. I'm quite new. There's a reduction for 2023-2024, which amounted to 214, resulting to the removal of all the retained earnings reserves accumulated. I just wanted to check what is the status quo about that currently in the year under review. And then looking at also the total reduction implemented by the National Treasury in 2023-2024 up to 2026-2027, which amounts to 986 million. I just want us to clear us on that as to what informs such reductions. Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairpersons. I found myself seated in a very okay, no, thank you so much. Honorable Chairpersons, I'm mostly covered by contributions and questions by honorable members. there is only one question that I have that I want to pose on the issue of oversight mechanism, Honorable Chairpersons, to check if the Joint Standing Committee, like other committees that go out to do oversight, if this joint standing committee can be able to practicalize all what we are talking about here by physically going to all the areas that have been identified by honorable members within Parliament and within the villages. I'm saying that knowing very well that on the part of villages there are committees that have been set up, but to physically see the conditions that members are sharing here, so that this standing committee will be in a position to swiftly act and put more emphasis and pressure to all those that are responsible for the implementation of whatever we are talking about here. To make an example, many of our boardrooms, air conditioning is not properly functioning. I may raise that here, but if some of us have not experienced that, I feel that it might end up a matter that concerns Hadebe only. But if we can set up a mechanism that someday the standing committee would physically see all the areas that honorable members have raised, so that we practicalize the issue of fixing and implementation. That's the only area that I wanted to cover, honorable chairpersons. Thank you so much.
Secretary, is your crew ready to respond to the issues? I agree with honorable members who say that the presentations were high level. I think that resonates with the preparations for this. We're meeting this units for the first time as this committee. And we wanted to start from the simple to the complex. Know what these units are doing, so that when we come to play oversight on them, we do that knowing exactly who they are and what is the work that they are doing. But it's true that the comprehensive reports were uploaded and the link was also provided. Maybe what we will do next time is that when we have such, we will keep on reminding members, so that we must not lose sight of those reports. But over and above all, the manner in which the engagements were arranged was for us to have a better understanding of the scope of the work that we will be doing as the Joint Standing Committee. In case there may be other issues that fell within the cracks, honorable members must find comfort that we're still going to have time with the office of the secretary and his entourage. Anytime they appear before us or even before they come, we can always advise on which issues we want them to come and present before us. But that secretary does not say that the issues that honorable members have raised here should not be given attention. And the point that Honorable Deputy Chief Whip raises here about the welfare of members, I think it's a very, very critical point that we should address it immediately when we come out of this this meeting. There are members who have been in this parliament for 30 years, and some even more than that. Yes, I mean, there was a member of the DA, I think, who holds the record for having been here for 35 or 37 years, I think. If the last time when I checked the records, of course, the DA may be younger in terms of age, but he has been in Parliament for that time. So, yeah, and many other members, regardless of the length of time that they could have been here, made a very huge contribution in the transformation of this Parliament and the Republic of South Africa as a whole. And they die in silence, Honorable Van Roy, and they are buried in silence. And what is even worse is that Parliament may not even know that Honorable so-and-so is no more. Not even a statement is made in plenary of Parliament. So I think that is a very, very sore point that we need to look at. Some of the things can be done incrementally, but what is important is that a policy could be put in shape, and we look at those things. I think one honorable member has said it here yesterday that members of Parliament find themselves in a very stressful situations sometimes. If you have children at a tertiary institution, you don't qualify for NSFAS, or your children don't qualify for that. So, and you may find that you don't even have a house. I remember in my previous responsibility, where there was one member who had to move from the Limpopo provincial legislature to Cape Town, and he had just married. And the wife was staying with him at the parliamentary village under the impression that the house belonged to the member. And so when the member had to leave for Cape Town, he came to the office to ask, where is my family going to stay? So these are some of the frustrations that members go through. I mean, you are just caught unprepared. And life goes on because life is like a watch. It can't wait for you. It goes on. So I think let's do our best so that members do have less frustrations wherever they stay, so that we have a productive parliament. If there are facilities that have to be kept in shape, let's do that. If there is any support, I mean, Honorable Klesha is right. I was on that bus that that jammed on the way to Laboria Park, and when that happens, you know, your mind just runs in a way that you don't understand, because you are now thinking about many things. What will happen to us? Are we safe here? We've been told that the surrounding is very dangerous. Yeah, you just get worried. I think those are some of the things, Secretary, that these are not the things that we should be discussing at the level of the committee. They are not matters strategic for the transformation and development of this country. But we are saying them because if at this level, as members of parliament, we can have frustrations like this, what about ordinary people that we represent? Because when we are here, we are supposed to be the voice of the voiceless. But if we have to start by speaking for ourselves, it will take us time to speak on behalf of those that we must represent. So let's get those matters given attention, and maybe co-chair, what we also have to look at is to have that. What are we going to call it? Joint meeting with the Portfolio Committee of Public Works. Yes. Yeah, so that they can be, because we may not have authority to invite the Department of Public Works to our meeting, but we can invite the Portfolio Committee. We can. No. The Portfolio Committee is an organ of Parliament that plays oversight. The Portfolio Committee that plays oversight on public works is an organ of Parliament. Remember, we spoke about regulations yesterday. So what we do not want other portfolio committees to do, we as well cannot do those things. We play oversight on a parliament or on the leadership of parliament. And there is a relevant organ that plays oversight on public works, which is also an organ of parliament. There must never be a confusion of roles there. That is the Portfolio Committee responsible for public works. So the Secretariat knows the procedure, how to make that meeting between us and the Portfolio Committee of Public Works, together with the DG of Public Works and his or her administration present in that meeting. That's exactly what will happen. We will not have a meeting with the Portfolio Committee alone. They won't have the answers. But the Portfolio Committee, because it's the one that plays oversight on the department, the invitations will accordingly, following any procedures available or permissible in law, extend the invitations to the department. Secretary, I'm handing over to you and your team.
Thank you very much, Honorable Co-Chair, and good evening to both of you as Co-Chair and Honorable members. And thank you very much for the various inputs you have raised. We will share the responses with the rest of the team that I'm leading. And indeed, on the presentations that we have made, Chairperson, we sent the details, but we took guidance on the outline that was given to us. It said we must cover largely the mandate, the budget, challenges, and any mitigating strategies. That's why you find it covers consistently those. But the detail goes into each of the various divisions that we have. Even divisional organograms, we have them, should the committee require, so that it can understand under ICT what is the staff structure, what capacity, and so on. What we only did was to say the vacancy rate is 20%, the attrition rate is 2%, and so on. But when we go to each of the divisions, it will then disaggregate accordingly. I'll just touch on 4 points and my colleagues will cover the rest. Honorable Badonos, you raised the issue of is there a difference between strategy for the administration of Parliament that it develops versus the strategy for Parliament as a political organ of the institution? There is no difference in terms of the outline of the strategy. The FMPLA, as we have cited the various clauses that define how we must develop, it gives timelines. The outer timelines for each transition, for an example, is 6 months. So 6 months, as outlined, Honorable Dagmo, is after each transition, within 6 months, there must be a strategy that outlines the priorities for the new Parliament. In our case, the timelines we counted were up to the end of November, and latest by the 12th of December, we had to ensure that it is tabled in both houses. And that was achieved after a thoroughgoing process was done in each of the respective houses, where there was a committee established for NA and a committee established for NCOP to drive the priorities immediately after induction. And then a joint sitting was done for those committees to agree on those priorities. And then they were taken to EA as required and then tabled. So the administration of Parliament then drives the support services in terms of that work. But given the multifaceted nature of strategy execution at a political level at Parliament, programming committees for each houses, they determine the execution in terms of priorities for the agenda of each of the house, and when there's joint priorities, they get determined through those mechanisms. So the administration does not define what Parliament must do. The opposite happens. We get guided, and then we practicalize how oversight must be supported or public participation. On the area of rebuilding project, who owns the facilities of Parliament? They are owned by Public Works. Honorable Badenost, you are correct. And Parliament uses these facilities from a custodial point of view. The legislation that governs that is the GIAMA Act, Government Immovable Property Act, that was passed in 1997. And that law defines the various role players in terms of immovable asset of the state. So it then places custodial authority on Public Works. And Parliament then has these facilities, but they are maintained and capitalized by Public Works. So in respect of the rebuilding project, as well as refurbishments we do in different floors in the 90 plane, we work with Public Works in terms of ensuring access to those facilities. If they've got other tenants, like now, we've got deeds office We've got Surveyor General's office. We have asked them to be removed so that we create space for offices for members and staff. So they are involved around that. And in respect of the rebuilding of the NA and NCOP, in 2022, a formal request was made to Public Works Minister, the then Minister, Minister Delil, who officially authorized Parliament to proceed with the rebuilding of the project. So from a regulatory point of view, in terms of GIAMA, we did follow the process around that. The issue of facilities management in Parliament, it's a program, honorable members, that speaks to a structured relationship, at least in terms of paper. We have an SLA with Public Works for the villages. That SLA also governs how they prioritize the execution of maintenance here in the precinct. So they've got outsourced services, and those contracts run over a period of 5 years. So they've just done one recently in 2023, the one we are seeing cleaning outside, and we meet with them regularly around those areas. So from expectations, we do outline. But the difficulty is not only about SLAs, it's the overall architecture of the relationship, from a governance, from a budgeting, and accountability. Parliament sits here, it doesn't know its total budget for the precinct. How much money is for Parliament of South Africa? It's not there. You won't get it. But it is part of the prestige portfolio. So we've started a discussion with them to say, even if we're part of the prestige portfolio, how much in that prestige is for Parliament of South Africa? Because that's an organ of state. It's not a Department of Public Works. We don't have that answer. So it will be important that as we deal with the overall review of the relationship, Parliament makes a determination around that aspect, guides us exactly as administration. So far, we can see elements like buses, elements like villages, and what needs to be done to service members. But it's not done ideally. The lifts we have here in the Max building, if you enter as we leave, there's no aircon on the lift. So if it were to be stuck for 3 hours or 5 hours, I don't know. But given the summer season, we have had instances of members being stuck there or staff. So the regularity of maintenance and the standards required for maintenance, they require a lot of improvements. So last year we took an assessment as Team Parliament to the villages on the 18th of May last year, just to assess all the villages. The compliance with OHASA standards and other things are not complied with on the village, but we don't manage the villages. We only manage that there is members that have been assigned and so on. So there's a lot of review that needs to be re-examined fundamentally around the structure of that relationship and the governance of it, so that the Village Management Boards Act and the GIAMA Act is reviewed to deal precisely with the better servicing of Parliament around these matters. We would aspire for members to be able to send an SMS if you have got a visitor in the village. Like in any other estate you could have. Somebody comes at the gate, gets dropped by Uber. I'm coming to house number 48. I'm visiting Honorable Dagmo. You won't be able to say to members, I've sent you a code up front so that when you get to the village, you are moved around, either received at the gate and you are shuttled. And some of those things to us are very basic, but they are not currently happening at this point. So a lot of revisiting of the overall structure of the relationship may be very important around better management and better servicing of members of Parliament. I would leave other questions. I'll take one for Honorable Van Rooyen. You raised the issue of management reports by AG. Those reports indeed are available for previous years, but also as recent as the last audit of Parliament. And Finance, when it presents, it may touch on some, but should honourable members require those, we can send them to the Secretariat in respect of those components. The area of interpretation services will be dealt with when knowledge management division is presenting tomorrow. And are we having any relationship with intelligence services domestically or internationally? Parliament, honorable members, as you know, it's a national key point. And in terms of the security apparatus managing the entire precinct, there's an interplay between SAPS, our own internal security, as well as national intelligence agents of the Republic. So they all operate from here. They've got coordinating mechanisms where they interface on managing security. But there is no specific relationship of our ICT with bodies that deal with that. They monitor the operations in the precinct, but not necessarily in a particular division of Parliament. The last point I would like to raise is the issue that Deputy Chief Whip, Honorable Dagude, you have raised around honoring members and so on. In the last Parliament, towards the end, the policy was reviewed around honoring members during their funerals and all other components. Perhaps through you, co-chairs, in the subsequent meeting, our member support services can present the detail around that to make sure that we are able to implement and operationalize that. The question of the budget is a critical matter, as we presented yesterday. It has been gradually been eroded, and it does impact on the investments we want to do on ICT as well as other divisions. But we take courage that as we rebuild the new parliament, we have made provision for almost close to R1 billion for ICT modernization of parliament as part of the contractual obligations for rebuilding parliament. So we intend leveraging on that capacity to make sure that we can revamp the overall ICT modernization strategy for Parliament. I would like to leave there, Honourable Chairperson, and my colleagues can pick up on the rest of areas that have been asked by members. Thanks.
Thank you very much, as Chairperson. And I must say that, Chairperson, I was encouraged by the comments by Honourable Dagmo insofar as the budget is concerned and the role that this committee must play in ensuring that Parliament has got sufficient resources to carry out its constitutional mandate. And I hope that that's the role that the committee, in addition to overseeing the financial management of Parliament, will also focus on. Some of the issues, I think, relating to maintenance of facilities and so on, we shall look at those issues. The issues relating to catering, we shall look at those issues. I think those are issues for improvement purposes. The Secretary has dealt with the relationship between Parliament and the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. Perhaps the issue relating to the provision of broadband and Wi-Fi at the parks, we are in discussion with Telkom, and Telkom will be making an assessment in the villages in the near future, and we hope that Telkom will assist insofar as that is concerned. The servicing of the fleet, Honourable Khatebe, yes, we do have the logbooks, and the fleet is serviced at regular intervals. We also have a service provider that provides cleaning services for the fleet. The issue of the ownership of the buses or the contractual arrangement between Parliament and Public Works is concerned, I think, is part of the relationship between Public Works and Parliament. I think it shall be considered in that broader context. The courier services, we do provide, as I've indicated, courier services, if Parliament or committees of Parliament have activities, oversight activities or any other activities anywhere else, we do courier the branding of Parliament to ensure that Parliament is represented at those or is visible at those activities. And as I have indicated, issues relating to general maintenance, those are the issues for improvement. We shall look at those issues. We shall of course make available. I'm sure when our finance division presents all the issues relating to financial management insofar as catering is concerned, those issues will also be made available. Will also be dealt with in that presentation. Honorable Mauto, I think you said there's a slide that confused you. The last slide, I think, is slide 5. If you go to that slide, the total post is 258, and if you take 176 plus 82, it gives you 258. So I hope that resolves it. It doesn't. Okay. If you take
Advocate, I hope it's not a dialogue.
No, it's not a dialogue, ma'am.
Yes.
I was just demonstrating the point that Honorable Mauto said is confusing. 176 plus 82 gives the total number of 258. Okay. Then if you go down, you take one contractor plus employees 175 plus graduate trainees. It gives you 188. Yep. Thank you very much.
Chair, if I may.
The Honorable Mob,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to avoid, because I think the managers division, they are responding. So, and the co-chair indicated that we'll also going to get deeper on each and every division. So I'm afraid, Honorable Mob, if we give you the opportunity, the other member will also want to do the same. So can we agree that the response from the advocate, if there is any other, maybe there is dissatisfaction with regard to that, can be raised?
I hear you, Chair, but I'm saying he does not understand my question. 101 plus 87 is 188, which is not reflected anywhere here. He says the field posts are 176. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Can we get another manager to respond?
Chair, I'll respond to the member support services related queries. I think I've just highlighted 3 that came out of it. A lot of the stuff we've just noted. In terms of the supporting documents that are submitted by members, we do have a challenge with the legibility of the documents. So what we will also do, and we have our engagement over the next couple of days, in the reinduction or session, we will also just look at the options on the phones that give us the best quality, where you take a scan rather than a photograph. But we'll have some of our staff there just to reinforce that as well, so that we do get the quality documents that we're looking for. The matter of the village Wi-Fi, that has already been addressed. It is on the agenda for the Member Support Forum. The allocation for parents is also a matter to be referred to the Member Support Forum, as that will require a discussion as well as a potential policy amendment, which would then be considered by the Member Support Forum and either recommended or not. And the attendance at the Member Support Forum meetings. Public Works attends all the Member Support Forum meetings. So many of the things that are being discussed here can actually be discussed in detail at those forums where Public Works are represented, and they report back at those Member Support Forums. And I think we've also got the chair of the co-chair of the Member Support Forum here, so we can make sure that we don't deal with things in 2 places. Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, you know, our honorable members, you are misbehaving. And you expect responses from the manager's division. Can we please allow them to respond? Please.
Sorry, through you, Honorable Chair. Linda, are you done on your side?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, what we wanted to say, Secretary, is that is it only Honorable Hadebe who sits in the member supports forum?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. When you go to that forum, you don't represent the Joint Standing Committee. And what we said here is that there must be a joint meeting with the Portfolio Committee of Public Works and the department and the delegation from the secretary. So that when you go to the member support forum, you will then be going there with a full mandate. Thank you. Secretary, we can proceed.
HR would also respond to you, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, co-chairs. I'll start with the question around, is there a labor forum in place? Yes, there is one that sits on monthly basis between organized labor and management. The question around the overtime policy, is there one in place? Yes, it is also one of those that we are reviewing to enhance them. The question around the organograms, I think it came across from the floor from honorable members. There are two stages around the organograms. There's the highest level of the organogram has been approved by both EAs. Divisional organograms are normally approved by the STP in his jurisdiction. However, there was a question about making them available. We shall do that and share those organograms. What are those historical issues? Typically, these are operational issues that relates to employee relations, that relates to harmonization, standardization of pensions, just to mention the two. These issues are important, they need to be resolved. With regard to workforce planning, I think co-chairs, I articulated the fact that we are kickstarting with that process, really to determine the capacity that is required by Parliament, given its work that needs to deliver on. So that work will start in the next month or so. We should be able to be complete by winter time, June, July. Terms of reference have been drafted that will guide that process. Acting people versus employment equity, yes, we do have an employment equity structure in place that sits on quarterly basis that measures and put the employment equity plans. We comply with Department of Labor in terms of reporting. With regards to recruitment, of course, we take that into consideration as we recruit. Yes, we do have vacancies in some areas where we have colleagues who are acting. If the question indeed is about the number of those, it can be made available to the committee. Thank you, co-chairs.
The last person will be ICT.
Thank you, Secretary to Parliament. First question was, ICT, do you have enough money? I think if you, just to put you in the picture, for the last 3 years, our budget decreased, and we have received almost only 2/3 of what we've asked for. So that gives you an idea of do we have enough money? We have enough for the bare essential services. So we keep the lights on. But if you say, do we provide with you with the services that is on par with other parliaments and what is best practice? No, we don't have enough money. The next question was around the negotiations with the Wi-Fi and fiber at the parks. That process is well underway. The Secretary of Parliament has expedited that process. They have finished, I think, the negotiations in terms of costs and things. It just needs to be finalized. But I think they've made a lot of good progress in that, and I think you can get more information on that soon. The intelligence service provider, I think the Secretary has answered that question. I just want to mention that data sovereignty is very important to us, especially in the light of the latest things where you see what Trump has said to South Africa and what our president's reaction was. We need to look at where our data is held, what they do with our data. When we use AI, which I agree with the one member, which is very important, but everything you put into AI can be used elsewhere. So we have to be very clear when we put AI, even in Parliament, that we say whatever information we put in there, is that information going to stay in South Africa? And even if it stays in South Africa, the service providers should not have the right to share that with anybody else or third party. And that is quite a difficult thing to manage, but we do manage that, and we have got the processes in place to deal with that. There was a question on when I say we're not responsible for the content with broadcasting, what does it mean? It means that ICT makes sure that the infrastructure is there so that we can broadcast. But the parliamentary communication services that you will meet with tomorrow and the knowledge information services, they determine what needs to be broadcasted, when do we need to be broadcasted, which committees need to be broadcasted. We only execute on that. So that's when we say we're not responsible for the content. IT carries that content, but we're not responsible for what is actually broadcast on it. There was a question on how does the vision and mission tie up with the overall vision and mission of Parliament. That is done in a very deliberate process. So that's why we're waiting for Parliament to finish its strategy, for that strategy to be signed off, and the SMG might be able to even cast more light on it. And then only do we do the digital transformation strategy of Parliament, because the priorities, as I've said, is directly driven by the strategy of Parliament. So if you've got a new requirement, even a division, we first test that requirement against the strategy and say, does it fit into the strategy? And that determines how we put resources to a project and how we prioritize the projects in terms of time. Can AI assist? Yes, we can. We agree that AI has enormous potential, but as I've said, AI also have got a lot of risks. I have been part of the team that went to Brazil to participate in the AI forum there of the International Parliamentary Unit. And we are on par with other parliaments in terms of our thinking, but we still have a lot to do. What we've done in the last year was focusing on putting a baseline in place of saying, what's the infrastructure that we need? What's the skills and resources that we need? How do we secure our data so that we can set up our plan going forward? And that's input into our digital strategy going forward. But we are well aware when we talk about data, big data, we talk about big data, analytics, and AI as one component, because you need to have the data first before you can actually leverage it with AI. The budget on outdated infrastructure, I sent a message to the CIO to just confirm that. He says what to replace what we need, and especially our data center, is 87 million. So that's the figure he confirmed with me. I'm sure if you need more detail, you can receive more detail, because those costs are they're well aware of the cost and where those costs are fitting into. How long can we go with the current infrastructure? If I can put you in the picture, the standard to replace these type of technology is about 5 years. Our technology is sometimes 7, 8 to 10 years old. So we are way past what is standard to replace these type of technologies. That's why we say it's not outdated, it's obsolete, which means that we can't replace something if it's broken. We can't revamp or upgrade something so that we can integrate with it, because the protocols that it works with as connectivity is outdated too far. New technology that's developed just can't integrate with that infrastructure. There was just a comment on the budget cuts that were problematic, and the confirmation of the public hearings that there are really some things that we can't do. As I've said in the presentation, we have to send a limited staff. It comes back to, do we have enough money? When we go to these types of things, we do the basics that needs to be done. And I can really compliment our CIO and our infrastructure manager for the work they've done to be able to keep the lights on with the budget that they do have. Then cybersecurity, how do we mitigate it? We have got all the things. I think we prioritize cybersecurity as a priority. So wherever we need to do patches, where we need to put in intelligent endpoints, firewalls, virtual private networks, to secure your information, we make it a priority. We mitigate it by having extensive monitoring and tracking tools that continuously track and see who is linking on, who's trying to log on. We also have logs that we process of every action and everything that a person needs to do. So there's one to prevent somebody from getting in, and then there's also the one that says, after things has happened, we go through logs to say, is there anything suspicious in those logs? So there's a proactive and a reactive way of trying to mitigate the cybersecurity. But that still remains a priority, because that's one place where we cannot slip up. Thank you, Chair. I think that has covered all the questions.
Secretary.
I think we have covered all areas. If we have missed anything, you would guide us.
I wanted you to say that. Honorable members, each one of you has been given a chance to interact with the presentations that have been made here by the respective branches. So they have also been given an opportunity to give their responses to this meeting. And I want to hear from Honorable Ndlovu if the item that I'm seeing on the agenda is the right item for us to proceed.
No, Chair, I thought you will give the honorable members, noting that we still have time, if they still want to. Yes, we don't want a situation whereby honorable members feel that they were not satisfied about it. That is why we are avoiding the dialogue. So, at least 5 minutes each, if there is any. Yes. Because according to the program, we're supposed to finish at 9:30. So we are here to work. Yes. So yes, because remember, as they were responding, there are areas that honorable members were like, wanted to do the follow-ups, and we wanted to avoid the dialogue. So let's give just only honorable members. Not everybody will want to talk, because what is important is for us to go out of this meeting satisfied, and also noting, honorable members, that we have agreed that we are going to get a detailed report in our next meetings. Detailed reports in our next meeting with time frames, because what is lacking, what I've realized, is the time frames on the reporting from the managers. So just only those. If you don't have anything, please don't talk, because we're going to stop you. Honorable Van Rijn, Badenhorst, Maope. That's it.
Chair, maybe I should start by apologizing for indicating that we don't have detailed presentation. I've been proven wrong by other MPs that
Yes.
they are there. So based on that, one will have to go through those and maybe be allowed to submit the written questions. Because, yeah, I think one wouldn't have done justice if you don't look into that vis-a-vis what is presented here. Thank you. But I'm grateful for the response received so far. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, thank you. I'll be very quick. It's just I wasn't sure if my question was answered regarding the role of the ISSD with regards to rebuilding of Parliament. Because as the 5 pillars indicate, one of the pillars is management of infrastructure and space development projects. So I just want to check if they are involved in the rebuilding of Parliament. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Believe me, I won't ask that question again. I'll take it out with my colleague there.
Okay.
But coming to the issue of Honorable Van Rooyen to say we'll get written questions, who do we submit these questions to? Because they are not a ministry, these people. So, no, but how? In what format? So when I have got a question to the minister, I address it to the minister. When I've got a question to the president, I address it to the president. It gets answered. But with them, how do we go about it? Even the speaker, if you've got a question to ask to the speaker, she's not a ministry. So if you get what I'm saying, how do we submit it? Because any other way, it's weekly questions of written reply to ministries, right? And then there's oral questions where ministers come to Parliament to answer those questions. So in this case, if a matter is related to this, how do we then go about it? And then the questions that were not answered, I take it that it means they are for the departments that are yet to come, the broadcasting issue, the PMG issue, and all that. So I hope that the secretary, because I think you are going to sit throughout, you've taken note, and then those departments will then respond when they come for their presentations. Thank you, Chair.
I like that, because we always come with a way forward. Honorable Dagmo.
I just wanted to say that my understanding of this financial management of Parliament and Legislatures Act, which the colleague is referring to, it's that we are the oversight mechanism, and that in meetings like this we are entitled to ask questions, whether to the secretary or the speaker and so on. So there isn't, I'm not aware of any mechanism through the chair where you can like ask a question for written reply or anything. And I would just suggest, as a way of operating, obviously the secretary of Parliament, would be, or via the committee, could direct a question. But I think as an oversight body, we the parliamentary sphere, we're not the executive, we're not the judiciary. This is a very specific law to provide for oversight over Parliament itself. And I think this is what we've got to follow, basically. But I would suggest direct questions to the secretary of the committee. To my proposal, Chair.
Deputy Chief Whip. Thanks very much. I think that brings us to the end of the session for today. There is no other things. We just only going to allow the secretary to respond and maybe just give also the direction for tomorrow. Then we'll adjourn the meeting. Secretary?
No, through you, Chair. I think I will also maybe engage with Honorable Paternoster once it is adjourned. I did respond to the question of involvement of ISSD in the rebuild.
Sorry, it's cheap Parliament hearing aids. I apologize.
Her issue and the advocate.
Honorable members, we are proceeding tomorrow at 14:30. And there is a proposal here that the Friday meeting must go virtual. I don't know what is the feeling of the Honorable Khade.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I think that will work, because once we say hybrid on a Friday, the office of the Secretary of the Committee will be expected to provide for the refreshments here, and then we end up having 2 people or 3 people. So if it is fully virtual, it will work. But then it is the responsibility of the member to ensure that wherever he or she is, there's a good signal to connect throughout. Cannot come and blame the Secretariat plus the chairpersonship, which is there. Thank you.
Secretary.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Co-Chairs. Just for a brief indulgence by the committee, the presentations we prepared are based on the guidelines sent by the committee. And Parliament has 21 departments, as we presented yesterday. So if you look at the guidance for today and tomorrow, there are 3 divisions that are not here. So we just wanted to check, maybe it was just an error not to itemize them, so that the committee does not leave without those 3 divisions. Because questions that were asked yesterday, the first ones were on security. Is security of Parliament working with police? So we do have a security department in Parliament, but there's no provision for its presentation, and its presentation is ready. The second one is the questions around capacity building of members. I did say yesterday, we do have a division that deals with support for members. I think Honorable Teza raised the question. It's called LSS. It's a department. Then the third one, there were questions about risk and audit. We do have a risk management unit as well as internal audit. So those 3 are not cited here. So maybe you could guide if you want us to add those, and they are also ready.
Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Honorable Co-Chairpersons. I just want to appreciate that the STP is saying the presentations are ready, but I want to propose that those presentations be done tomorrow. At least tomorrow we are starting 2:30. So, thank you.
Seconded. Second that proposal. Chairs, I second that proposal.
Yeah. No, I wanted to check if we could not take the draft strategy tomorrow.
Because it's that earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, instead of having it virtual on Friday.
Chair, is your proposal, if I could just ask, is your proposal then that Friday falls away? That we do everything tomorrow?
No,
Oh,
that tomorrow we start with the presentation on the draft strategic plan. Yes, they will come on tomorrow and on Friday.
Chairperson, I'll support that if they are ready tomorrow, then we can deal with the strategic planning of Parliament face to face. Then the other items, we can deal with them on Friday if we don't finish tomorrow. But I think it's going to be maybe a long meeting tomorrow to do everything, but we can start with the strategic planning if they are ready for tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe let's hear from the secretary whether there is comfort with that proposal.
We will be ready, Chairperson, on the strategy, as well as the rest of other presentations.
Yeah. Yeah. Honorable members, do we support that we start with the presentation on the draft strategy tomorrow? Yeah, no, she will sort out those other things. Yeah.
we support with an incentive to even try and finish everything tomorrow.
If possible.
No, this is your meeting. You are the ones who decide if we can finish tomorrow.
And avoid the visual of Friday.
Yeah, honorable members, thank you very much. I see that you still have the energy to run until 9:30. But out of generosity, I'm feeling that this meeting must come to an end.